Hello everyone, my name is Richie and welcome back to another video. Today you join me for the final what to expect video for Train Sim World 5. And today we're going to be talking about the Kinzigtalbahn, if that's how you say it, I have no idea. The Frankfurt to Fulda route, which looks pretty darn good after I've done a bit of research on it. So yeah, we're going to be doing the final one today. I've already done an expectation video for the San Bernardino line and West Coast Main line, so if you want to watch them, they will be in the description. And I've also done one for Train Sim World 5 in general. So this is the final one. The preview stream is in a couple of days time and early access starts this week, so I'm very excited, and I know a lot of you are very excited too. So let's jump into Frankfurt Fulda and let's see what we can expect to see from the route. So let's start where we always do, with some initial information, where I've nicked the graphic again. So here we go, the Kinzigtalbahn. I'm actually just going to call it Frankfurt Fulda from now on because that's just easier to say for me. But this route is 64 miles and 24 stations. And it includes, hold on, brace yourself, the DBBR 411, the DBBR 193, the DBBR 423, the DBBR 146, and the DBBR 114. And also the Dostos and whatever else. And that is all included. So you don't need, like for example, the 423 would realistically layer from Munich, Augsburg, whatever else, but you literally get 5 pieces of rolling stock included, which if you don't own any other German routes, that's insane. This route links up Frankfurt, which is one of the busiest, if not the busiest station in Germany, up to Fulda, which we have seen on the Schnellfahrstrecke Kassel Wurzburg route, which I did a stream on the weekend just gone. So if you want to see that, that's also linked in the description, or there'll be a card on screen or something like that. And of course, with this route, there is a deluxe edition loco, which is the Flixtrain BR193, which we'll have a look at and discuss a little bit later on. So yeah, a bit of an overview on this route, 64 miles, 24 stations. That's a lot of mileage and a lot of stations. I think, to be fair, the station to mileage ratio is one of the highest. Normally, if we have about 50 miles, we have about 25 stations, something like that. So the fact that we've got an extra 15 miles and almost just as many stations, it's going to be pretty insane. It's a very busy main line. I know obviously the Frankfurt half, or the Frankfurt to Hanau section is very busy. A lot of S-Bahn lines on there, so it's going to be very built up, and it's going to be, well, Frankfurt's going to be absolutely insane. It's going to make my PS5 melt. And like I was saying, yeah, Frankfurt Hauptbahnhof is the busiest station in Germany, which, like I said, it's going to struggle. If you're on last gen, you're going to struggle with this route, I won't lie to you. The included rolling stock, obviously we've got the ICE-T, we've got the Vectron, we've got the 423, the 146 and the 114. And as for layers, we're going to get the Flixtrain Vectron, and we're going to have all sorts of other layers. There's all sorts going on layer-wise, playable and AI, so I will discuss them a little later on. So let's talk a little bit about the included rolling stock. This is the ICE-T, and it looks absolutely fantastic. This is possibly one of the most highly requested ICE trains on the forums. I've always seen people ask for the ICE-T. And I think it boils down to the fact that the T, I think, stands for tilting, or something like that. This is another example of a tilting train. So we're getting 2 tilting trains with Train Sim World 5's core, this and the Pendolino. I've messed this screenshot up a little bit, but we've got the 114, which is, I think, very similar to the, is it the 112? I'm not sure. I've seen that sort of shell before. But this operates most of the regional services with the Dostos. And here is another screenshot of the Dostos in front of the sort of, what is that? Is that like a signal box room, something like that? I don't know what that is, but that's key, a key landmark next to the station. I'm not too sure what that is. I'm a little bit disappointed that we're seeing the same Dostos again. I would have liked to have seen some new Dostos as part of this pack, but hopefully, maybe we could see some at some point. And of course, we've got the DBBR 193 Vectron. So with this, the Railpool one and the Flixtrain one, we're going to have 3 different versions of the Vectron, which I think have all got differences. There is like a little GIF somewhere which shows you the differences between the cabs and a few exterior differences as well. So yeah, a bit of a breakdown on the included rolling stock. The ICE-T, a tilting train, which is part of the ICE family, and it obviously operates the express services. DBBR 114 is, I think it's the 112. I could be really wrong there, I don't know, but I've seen that sort of shell before. So it's very similar to a loco we've got before, with a few modifications. The example of a passenger loco, which is kind of my way of saying it pulls the Dostos, so I think it does some freight stuff as well, I'm not too sure. And this operates the commuter/regional services. I think they're RE50s and 51s. The DBBR 146 was first seen, I think, in main Spessartbahn, and we've seen it ever since. And obviously it's another example of a passenger loco, so it will pull the Dostos as well. The DBR 193 is a freight loco. I don't know whether it'll have any passenger capabilities, obviously because we're getting the Flixtrain Vectron, which is solely passenger. So this will obviously add to the massive freight roster of vehicles that we've got for German freight. And then we've got the DBR 423, which is an S-Bahn train, and it was first seen in Munich-Augsburg and then later added into Kolnaken in that new Journeys pack. And this is going to operate all of the S-Bahn, which I think there's 4 S-Bahn lines in the part of the route we've got, so we'll talk about that when we come on to the timetable. And of course we've got the Flixtrain Vectron, which we'll talk a little bit more about. Now, the Deluxe Edition DLC, let's talk about it. So, we've got this very striking Flixtrain BR193 Vectron. It's interesting. It wasn't my first choice of DLC, and I've said this before, I probably would have liked to have seen something else. But it's cool to see the Vectron being used for passenger running, and I think it's got some different types of coaches as well. I suppose the key marketing point is adding a touch of lime green to the Red Sea of German trains, so it's definitely going to stand out. It looks cool. I'll give it that. It looks very cool, and it's also very cool to have Flixtrain as an operator in the game as well, because obviously we've got Flixbus in Fernbus, so it's good to see that their train company is now included in a simulator game as well. Here's another screenshot of the Flixtrain Vectron, and as you can see, compared to the Dostos there, it definitely it adds a bit of variation colour-wise, which is quite nice. And here is a screenshot of the 3 different variants of the Vectron. As you can see, you got the Flixtrain one there, the DB one, and then the Rail Pool one. They look, obviously, other than colour, they look pretty much identical from the outside, but internally I think they've got some differences. So it's cool that we've gone from 1 Vectron to 3, so that's going to be very cool. So a bit of an overview on the Flixtrain Vectron. The unit features Flixtrain branding, and it's a Vectron that we can use for passenger services. It's very green, lime green, so it's definitely going to stand out, so it'll look cool amongst all the different DB stock. And I believe this only operates intercity. I'm not too sure. I couldn't really find a timetable for it, but what I did find out in that little interview that Lucas did a couple of weeks ago, it's only got 6 services, which is a little bit disappointing. I personally think for a Deluxe Edition DLC, like you compare this to the 390, which is going to have an extensive timetable, I kind of feel like this is a bit of a futile DLC, like kind of a bit pointless. So I think it's only there really to use Vectron on passenger services, which they could have done from the outset. But it's still going to look cool, and obviously if you get the Deluxe Edition, you can then, you know, save money in the long run because you're getting 3 routes and 2 loco DLCs, so they're not bad. Of course, if you want to pick up the Flixtrain Vectron, it's part of the Deluxe Edition like I was just mentioning, and if you want to get it standalone, I think it's $12.99, and it will be available from release date on the 17th of September. Now, let's talk about the layers. In fact, before we do, let me have a sip of tea because this is going to be a long section. So the first of many layers is the Ice One, the 401, which I had a little bit of a go off at the weekend. Very cool ICE train. I think it's the first ICE train, so this will obviously layer into the route because when you play Kassel Wurzburg, there are services that go between Kassel and Fulda and then they go off map. You'll then be taking them over in this route, so we'll see a lot of these services. And what's quite interesting about this layer is that this is the first time the Ice One will be layered into such an extensive timetable, in the sense that obviously we had a few like depot moves and whatever else and some gimmick services in other routes, but this will be the first time that the Ice One will have like a quite extensive timetable in another route. And it's also going to be quite cool seeing you're going to have the Ice 1, you'll have the Ice 3, you'll have the Ice T. There's going to be so many different ICE trains now. It's going to look incredible. Another layer is the DBR 642 because I think there's some diesel running and I think this is playable as well. So we'll obviously see this, which is quite cool because I quite like the 642. It's a nice little unit. So here we go, this is the breakdown of the layers, and look how insane this is. There's so many different trains, and I don't even think I've got everything covered here, so if I've missed something, please do let me know. So for intercity passenger runs, we'll have the DBR 101, the 401 and 403. And we'll also see the Flixtrain Vectron because it's technically a layer, isn't it? As for some other passenger operations, we've got the DBBR 425, the 628 and the 642, so plenty of diesel running. As for freight, pretty much any applicable freight loco is going to be able to be used on this route, but some key ones are obviously the DBBR 363, which will operate some shunting services. You got the 155 and the 185, and I think you'll have like the MRCE versions and the Rail-on versions as well. And of course, we'll see the Rail Pool Vectron and 185. As for some other types of services, we'll see the DBBR 103 as Rail Tour, and we'll also see the 1116 on some Nightjet services, which is quite interesting. And of course, for some AI only stock, we'll see the DBBR 422, the hamster looking train. Now of course we're jumping on to my favourite part of the video, the timetable. It was really difficult to get some research on the timetable because there's not really many references to like the ICE timetable or the S-Bahn, so I had to use trusty old Wikipedia to find some information. So let's talk about the timetable. So here is a table I found on Wikipedia for all of the ICE operations on this route, and they're mostly every 2 hours. So obviously we'll see quite a few ICE trains. I'd say about 2 to 3 per hour. Obviously the off-map destinations are going to be different, but all in all we're going to have about 2 or 3 ICE trains per hour. So for regional services, we've got RE50 and RB51, which go between Frankfurt and Fulda, and they operate every hour. And then you've also got RE55 and 85, which go as far as Hanau. So we'll see maybe 1 to 2 trains, regional trains an hour. Here is the network map of the Frankfurt S-Bahn, and I've included this because part of the route is S-Bahn, which is this section over here going up towards Hanau. And I think they mentioned in the article today that there is playable S8 and S9 trains, and I think they're with the 423. So we'll be able to go, I think that goes along from Frankfurt to Suds, and then it kind of like goes down towards Hanau. I'm not too sure how it works, but we've got a couple of S-Bahn services that we can run as well. So a bit of a breakdown on the timetable. We've got 2 to 3 trains per hour in each direction for the ICE trains, and these will be a mixture of ICE-T services, ICE-1 and ICE-3, and the 101 as well. And these will operate between Frankfurt and Fulda. For RB and RE services, we're going to see 1 to 2 trains per hour in each direction. As you can see, the actual full line runs between Frankfurt and Fulda are every hour. And we're going to get some S-Bahn running with the S8 and S9 lines between Frankfurt and Hanau. And of course, whatever freight they throw in, I can't really find anything for freight, so I'm going to guess there's quite a bit of freight on this route as well. So that gives us a total service count of 512, which is what I'd nicked from the interview. So that could change, but I'm guessing around 500 to 600 services for this route, which is pretty darn good. We've got some quite big timetables for this for these core routes, haven't we? We've got, what, 694 West Coast Main Line and 512 for this. So hopefully future timetables are just getting naturally bigger, and it's going to be absolutely incredible to see. So let's jump onto a potential DLC, and I say potential, but it's kind of been confirmed that we will see the DBBR 420 coming to the Frankfurt Fulda route. So yeah, I did predict that we'd see a 420 as a loco DLC for the German route, and they did kind of say that TSG want to put it onto Frankfurt Fulda because they were going to put it onto Munich Augsburg, but that route couldn't really handle it. So we will hopefully see this route, this loco on this route, and then maybe this will layer onto the new Coln-Aachen timetable and whatever else. So very cool to see this loco very soon. And it will be good just to kind of get it out of the way, because I know that TSG have been working on this for years now. So they wanted to put it on a route a couple of years ago. I think the work's pretty much done, so I can imagine we'll get this announced in the next couple of months. And on to the final section for this video, the route features. Now, it was really difficult trying to find some route features. Obviously, I'm not too good with my German routes, so I tried doing a bit of research, but if there's anything notable I've missed, please let me know in the comments. It'd be interesting to find out some more information on this route, so if you're local to this route and there's some things I've missed, please let me know. So the first thing we've got to mention is Frankfurt Hauptbahnhof, which is an absolute massive station. Look at the size of it. And obviously behind this you've got the incredible Frankfurt skyline, which is going to look so good. Obviously from the interview we saw that the skyline's there, and it's pretty much, you know, it's insane how cool it looks. You've obviously got, look at all these different trains all about. You've got some ICE trains over there, some Dostos. You've got all sorts going on, so it's going to be absolutely nuts. This is a picture of Fulda Hauptbahnhof, which we do have in the Kassel-Wurzburg route, which is going to be the eastern end of this route, which is it's going to be quite cool because you can do the route hopping here. So that's a key feature for this route, is that this station you can do the seamless, quote unquote seamless route hopping between Fulda on Frankfurt Fulda to Kassel Wurzburg. So if you want to do one of them ICE1 services from Kassel down to Fulda, you could then route hop, jump back into the same service and then go to Frankfurt. That's quite cool. And again, I did a little delve on Wikipedia for like key landmarks and stuff, and I really couldn't find much, but I found this, and I think this is the Stenheim main bridge, which I read something about, like there was a whole topography issue, so they built this to avoid zigzagging. So this will be a quite cool feature, quite a cool bridge to look at, and I think this is near Fulda, so that's a cool little route feature. So yeah, not really much on route features. Obviously, I've struggled to find some information, so let me know if there's anything I've missed. But obviously, we've got the Frankfurt skyline, Frankfurt Hauptbahnhof, Fulda Hauptbahnhof, and the Stenheim main bridge. So other than that, the route's going to be pretty nuts, because it's going to be quite busy. We're going to see all sorts of services, and we're going to have busy stations either side. So it's going to look really good. I'm looking forward to it. And there we go. That was the Kinzigtalbahn Frankfurt Fulda route. Are you excited for this route? Let me know in the comments. As for my final thoughts, I'm quite looking forward to this route. I'm not normally overly fussed about German stuff, but when there's a busy route coming, I'm very happy. Like when Dresden came out, I was absolutely all over that. I think that's an absolutely incredible route. So having another really busy German route with all sorts of layers and stuff, it's going to be really great. I think the great thing with German routes is that some of them are a bit similar, but they have incredible layers and timetables, because we've just got loads of DB stock. So you know, this will now open up the door for even busier routes going forward, because we'll have like 4 ICE trains now and whatever else. So it's looking the future's looking good for German routes. So yeah, that has been what you can expect to see from the Kinzigtalbahn Frankfurt Fulda. Let me know what you think about this route and whether you're excited for the preview stream in a couple of days and for early access. Don't forget that early access starts later on this week on Thursday the 12th of September. So if you want to give this a go, make sure to get the Deluxe or Special Edition and give it a go. I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, thank you very much for watching this video. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please smash that like button and subscribe. If you're new, I'd massively appreciate it. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll hopefully see you all in the next video. Bye bye.